guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to be doing a book babble for the hashtag Booktube SSF Awards. If you guys aren't aware of that, there is a bunch of booktubers that are part of the science fiction and fantasy community on Booktube, and they have put together kind of an award show in response to last year's Hugo Awards, where things were a giant mess. If you don't know, check out some of their videos talking about it. But it's basically talking about what science fiction and fantasy Booktube really enjoys, and everybody kind of nominating, and there's read-alongs, there's these kind of discussions this year, there's stuff on Goodreads, everything. So I will link everything down below, but they just recently announced the shortlist for the awards. And I was pleasantly surprised that I have actually read a good half of the things on the shortlist. I'm not including the short fiction section. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to those. I might fit them in if I can, because short fiction is easily to kind of squeeze in there. But as far as the novels and the graphic novels from all the categories, I've read a surprising amount of them. And I understand that this is all nominated by booktubers and stuff. It's not necessarily like all critically acclaimed stuff, although there is some of that kind of like crossover in this. But I was really surprised. So this year I'm going to try to read almost all of these short lists. There's a few books that I'm not going to be able to read, and I'll kind of go over those in a second. But for the most part, I'm going to try to read the short list, which I'm super excited about, because last year I only read a few on the list, so I really couldn't like do that. But this year, I really have a shot. The first book on the short list that I'm going to try to read is from the just regular novel section, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I've heard really amazing things about this series in general, so I do want to get to it, and this gives me a good reason to read it and then talk about it with other people. The next book is actually Saga Volume 5. I have not read Saga Volume 5. I don't even own it. I don't know why I haven't. I think it's because I need to reread the last 4 volumes before I read 5, and I just don't have the time right now as far as like graphic novels. Anyway, I need to get to it, but I just haven't yet. So this is, again, another good reason to catch up and read that, which is exciting because I do love Saga. It's still one of my favorite graphic novel series of all time. I would have loved to have read Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson, but that is book 5 in the Mistborn series. There's the original trilogy, and then there's this trilogy that's happening like 200 or 300 years after the original trilogy. And I haven't even finished the original trilogy. I'm on book 1. Well, I've read book 1, and I'm going to be reading the next 2 books in the original trilogy in the next couple of months or so, but there's no way I'm going to catch up and read all those, and I don't want to push myself through them just to get read. So yes, I don't need to do that, but I want to, but I can't. The next book is actually Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and I had no really interest in reading this after it came out. I heard some kind of like mixed things. It's just things that I'm not sure that I'm going to like about it, but I'm going to try maybe to read it, maybe get it from the library, not really sure. I'm not sure how I feel about this being nominated, actually. It's nominated in the young adult category, obviously, because it is young adult, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because it is almost like a parody on kind of tropey thing. I don't know if it stands on its own 2 feet, which is why I want to read it and see if it in fact does, because I feel like it, from what I've heard, it is standing a lot on the foundation of like Harry Potter. Like if you hadn't read or known about Harry Potter as a pop cultural phenomenon, then you might not understand this book that much, and you might not kind of get some of the jokes and everything else. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is the best book from that category, because I don't think it can stand on its own like some of the other ones in that category can. We'll see. Then there's Descender Volume 1, and that is actually a graphic novel that I have heard nothing about, but I'm interested to try because apparently it has enough hype that it got nominated for this, so that's exciting. It's in the same category as Saga, so we'll see. So as far as my feelings on the nominations in the different categories, for Best Novel, the nominations were A Darker Shade of Magic, Uprooted by Naomi Novik, The Fifth Season, and Shadows of Self. So as far as the ones that I've read A Darker Shade of Magic and Uprooted. The ones that I've read, I'm definitely pulling for Uprooted. I was not a huge fan of A Darker Shade of Magic, and I think Uprooted is way, way better. Do I think Uprooted should necessarily win Best Novel? I'm not sure, but from the list that we have, I am pulling for that one the most. If I read The Fifth Season beforehand, I might pull for that one a little bit more, but from that list, Uprooted is definitely my favorite, although I don't think it's the perfect novel. It's perfect to me. As far as Best Young Adult Novel, we have Carry On, Illuminae, and Six of Crows. Between Six of Crows and Illuminae, I'm extremely torn. I enjoyed both of them a lot, but I think ultimately, surprise, surprise, my pick is going to be Six of Crows because it is everything to me. But if Illuminae won, I wouldn't at all be upset because I think that's also just a masterpiece, and I can't wait to see more from that series. But Six of Crows, man. Six of Crows. And as far as graphic novels, we have Nimona, Descender Volume 1, The Wick and the Divine Volume 2, and Saga Volume 5. For me, The Wick and the Divine Volume 2 is very important to me. I love the Wick and the Divine series. It has bypassed Saga as my favorite graphic novel series, which is a not so popular opinion because a lot of people do not like the Wick and the Divine, but I love it. It's such a love it or hate it series, and I adore it, and I think it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Now, if that was up against some of the earlier volumes of Saga, because obviously this is like everything that came out this year, then I would like maybe not be so sure. But from this year and the offerings that we got, I do think that that one is a superior one. I was not a huge fan of Nimona at all. I think it was kind of a mediocre graphic novel. So I'm looking forward to potentially my fave winning, because I have a lot of feelings about it. Favorite graphic novel series. And I might reread it just in celebration of it being nominated, because it's so good. I need to get the 3rd volume. Bad me. There's also some short fiction works that were nominated, but I have not read any of those. I do not read a ton of short fiction, so I don't feel like I could really comment on those a ton, but I might read those, like I said, if I have some time and I can kind of squeeze them in, or something's getting towards the end of the month and I only have a few days, maybe read some short fiction. We'll see. It'd be nice to kind of dip my toes in the short fiction, but I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. Alright guys, that is it for my little book babble. Comment down below, let me know your feelings on the Booktube SFF shortlist. Are you going to be participating in any of the read-alongs? Are you pulling for any particular nominees? Comment down below and let me know. So thank you all for watching, I'll see you guys soon. Bye!